We've all heard of Tony Hawk, more importantly the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, right? Some of you might have even been introduced to Tony Hawk himself through the Pro Skater games, which is awesome. Personally, these games introduced me to the world of skating and pro skaters, but mostly shaped my taste in music, introducing me to artists like Alien Ant Farm, Goldfinger, De La Soul, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, System of a Down, and AC/DC. I was also super excited to play the remasters recently, both 1 and 2, and my personal favourite at the moment, 3 and 4. Completely biased, as these were the first 2 games that I grew up playing with my brother. I've heard as well that these games have inspired people to skate themselves, myself included, for a very short period of time. I don't know if there's any footage of this, but hopefully not. There's so much that I could talk about in regards to this series, but today I wanted to talk specifically about one of the game companies responsible for the development of these games, Neversoft. Neversoft was founded in July of 1994 by 3 Malibu Interactive employees. This was a division of Malibu Comics, which was based in Westlake Village, California. The Sega Genesis or Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, they were the primary video game consoles at the time. Joel Jewett was the head of development at Malibu Interactive, teaming up with Mick West, who had just completed working on Battletech, a game for armoured combat for the Sega Genesis, and Chris Ward, a video game artist. Initially, these 3 found work for Playmates Interactive, which was a then division of Playmates Toys, who were about to release Skeleton Warriors, which was a 1994 line of 5-inch action figures produced by Playmates, based on the animated television series of the same name. Playmates wanted a video game to go along with the toys and the cartoon series, so Neversoft worked on the Genesis version for 5 months. Then in December of 1994, Playmates cancelled the game. While not necessarily unhappy with the progress, Playmates had decided that they needed to develop the game for the Sega Saturn instead, a 32-bit 5th generation home console released in Japan in 1994 and then in North America and Europe in 1995. 1995 was spent developing Skeleton Warriors for the Sega Saturn. During this time, Neversoft was growing rapidly, hiring 3 programmers, 5 artists, a level designer, a tester, and an office administrator. Skeleton Warriors was finished in time for the holiday season, and then Neversoft began looking for other work while it was being ported to the PlayStation in 1996. The company kept on growing, expanding to over 20 employees by 1996. They worked on a game based on Ghost Rider for Crystal Dynamics, only to be cancelled due to financial problems with the publisher. With Neversoft having some excess capacity, they began developing a game of their own design, initially called Big Guns. The technology developed for this was later used in the conversion of the PC game MDK, which I think is pretty cool. By the end of 1996, Neversoft had sold the idea for Big Guns to Sony Computer Entertainment, and they began development. The MDK conversion took far longer than expected, and the Big Guns game, renamed later to Exodus, went through numerous design changes made by Sony and was cancelled in November of 1997. Neversoft shrunk back to just 12 employees and spent the next few months meeting with numerous companies and looking for work. Then in January of 1998, Neversoft had a meeting with Activision, who were at the time looking for someone to redevelop a game called Apocalypse, which was a failed internal project, which Neversoft seemed perfect for this. The technology developed for Big Guns proved useful, thank fuck, turning out to be ideal for Apocalypse. In May of 1998, Apocalypse was going very well, leading to Activision signing Neversoft up to develop a prototype for a skateboarding game. This was a very slow process as they were still working on Apocalypse at the time. The initial prototypes resembled the arcade game Top Skater, which was an arcade skateboarding game released by Sega in 1997, built on the Sega Model 2 hardware. Once Apocalypse wrapped up in October of 1998, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater started development for the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. Then by the end of the year, Neversoft had the game development in full swing, with the company now being made up of 6 programmers, 5 artists, 3 level designers, 1 producer, and Joel Jewett, the president of Neversoft. Between 1999 and 2007, Neversoft developed 9 Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, these being Pro Skater 1, 2, 3 and 4, Underground, Underground 2, American Wasteland, Project 8, and Proving Ground. Unfortunately, they had nothing to do with that one mobile game, Skate Jam, that I thought was honestly shit, but it was Tony Hawk on my phone, so I can't really complain too much. Neversoft had also increased their employees to around 150 people. Going back to 2005, Neversoft developed a Western action-adventure open-world game entitled Gun, alongside companies Beanox and Rebellion Developments. Then in 2006, Activision acquired Red Octane and their Guitar Hero series, which I'm sure you've heard of, choosing Neversoft as the developer. Neversoft developed Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock, Guitar Hero Aerosmith, Guitar Hero World Tour, incorporating drums and vocals alongside the guitar, Guitar Hero Metallica, Guitar Hero 5, Band Hero, and Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock. The games following Warriors of Rock would be developed by Vicarious Visions, developers of the Wii ports, and Guitar Hero Van Halen. Jumping quite far ahead to May of 2014, it was reported that Neversoft had merged with Call of Duty creators Infinity Ward to create what they referred to as a super studio, which is a bit like when Parliament and Funkadelic joined forces to make Parliament Funkadelic. That's the first thing I thought of. So any Parliament Funkadelic fans, give this a thumbs up. Unfortunately, Neversoft was officially made defunct on July the 10th, 2014, 20 years to the day of its founding, with the remaining employees attending the now iconic burning of a sculpture they had in their office of the skewered eyeball from their logo, which is awesome. When I think about Neversoft, the first thing that comes to mind is their logo, honestly. More specifically, their series of splash screens, which were often animated graphics screens you would see before the game fully started. They were interesting. My personal favourite was the one of the gorilla sitting, picking its nose, seemingly digging too far, and then pulling out an entire eyeball, which then I think it hopped over to join the text and sort of create the logo. Back when I used to play these games on the PS2, I didn't know the history of the company, which obviously I didn't because it was still happening as I was playing the games, but I always saw Neversoft as this cool presence in the game, finding references to them in the game's cosmetics, and I'm pretty sure they were referenced in the 1 and 2 remaster as well. Unfortunately, the founders had left the gaming industry shortly after the merger, while other staff continued to work on the development of Call of Duty titles. What I can say for certain is that, as well as being the ones pulling the strings behind the whole Pro Skater operation, Neversoft has left its mark on both myself and many others, prompting some to even get tattoos of the logo, which I've considered as well, primarily to show their love for the games that Neversoft had worked on. And, you know, the impact, like I said, that they brought to people's lives, basically. So despite me not really having mentioned anything aside from Tony Hawk and Guitar Hero, Neversoft was also responsible for the iconic Spider-Man for the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64, later ported to macOS, Windows, and other consoles. This released August 30th of the year 2000. Spider-Man was an action-packed adventure game where you essentially got to play as Spider-Man, which in my books is pretty cool. The game's success was then followed by 3 sequels, all released in 2001, which is nuts. 3 games in 2001. This is like King Gizzard of the game. I really shoehorned that King Gizzard reference in there. We had Spider-Man 2: The Sinister Six, developed by Taurus Games, the PlayStation exclusive Spider-Man 2: Enter Electro, developed by Vicarious Visions, and the Game Boy Advance exclusive Spider-Man Mysterio's Menace, which was also developed by Vicarious Visions. While Neversoft had no involvement in the development of these games after Spider-Man, it's fun to see that they kickstarted the series, essentially. It's true that not everyone shares the same nostalgia for these early video games, and there's no doubt in my mind that stories of Neversoft and its impact on both the gaming industry and the skateboarding community will be shared until the end of time. If you've never played the games, you can either buy cheap copies of the games online or at your local trade-in shops, or you can emulate them. And I can honestly say that the remastered 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are relatively faithful to the original games themselves, and I personally will recommend them. All I can say is when you think back to pulling off a nose manual in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, don't forget about Neversoft and the scary skull alien creature doing tricks at the start of Project 8 that I still think about. It still comes back in my memory, late at night when I'm trying to sleep. Also, really quickly, there's a documentary, I think it's on Amazon Video, I'm not sure, called Pretending I'm a Superman, which is in reference to the Goldfinger song that was used in some of the games. Please watch that. I watched it. I thought it was amazing. It's a really good, heartfelt, independent documentary, and I fully recommend it if you want to learn more about the skateboarding community, but also specifically the games, because the documentary's about the games. So yeah, I would fully recommend watching that if you have the chance. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk again soon.